What's up, Adrian?
What's
What's
happening?
up,
What's happening? What's happening?
YouTubers,
What's happening?
Facebookies, and Twitter, X fingers? What are y'all doing out there? Hootie Who's Finest Talk Show is up in the house. What's up,
Hey, how you doing? What's going on with you?
Adrian? Man, just been busy, my guy. Been busy.
Yeah, same here. Oh my goodness, been so busy the last few weeks. So just taking care of all my affairs. Being an adult is challenging. You don't
Yes.
get no breaks. You got to pay your bills. You got to make sure everything is up to date, registered, and quantified. Yeah.
Have all of that stuff in order. Well, let's welcome our guests. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Hootie Who's Finest Talk Show. You got your girl Tree. We got Adrian in the house. We're about to get into this content, y'all. We got some. It's really kind of old content, but I want to tap into it because there's a lot of misinformation going around with our people these days.
Yeah.
And as a result of this non-citizenship and all of that stuff. So I wanted to tap into this case, and I know a lot of people have heard about this case. You heard about this case before we started researching it a little bit, haven't you, Adrian?
Yes. So the case it actually occurred in November 21st. On November 21st in 2021,
Right.
I was actually released 3 days later.
Wow.
So I remember seeing it while I was still in prison, and it was like a Christmas parade. It was around Thanksgiving, but it was a Christmas parade. There was so much speculation, whether it was a terrorist attack or
Right.
um, yeah, who it was. Was the guy fleeing from the cops because But yeah, I remember hearing about it, man. And then seeing the guy and all that getting arrested, the light skinned brother.
Kind of weird. Well, let me set the scene for everyone that's not familiar with the case because I wasn't really too familiar with the case. Just gonna be honest. It's just been a lot of news going on, and some stuff just go over your head if it's not. But I did see it on social media like a year ago when he was having his trial. But I
Yeah,
was researching another trial. So let me start off by laying the foundation of the case.
yeah,
This case is about Darrell Brooks Jr. is his name, and he is the guy that got convicted of running his Explorer SUV through the Christmas parade and
Waukesha.
Waukesha,
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
Hmm.
And Waukesha, Wisconsin is a really small community,
Yeah.
from what I've researched. So let me lay this out. So Durrell, so Mr. Brooks, on that day, he really he went to that town to see his baby mama, his girlfriend. She happened to be in that town in a women's shelter for battered women. So
Yeah.
he had already been beaten on this woman from wherever they was from,
Yeah.
and they sent her to this town to be in that battered women's shelter. While she was in that shelter, she obviously contacted him and basically let him know where she was at. He drove up there to see her.
Yeah.
Um, from what the record show is that they were together all that day, rolling around together. Um, Something happened where they got into an altercation later on. And when they got into an altercation, he hit her. She had a big black eye and everything. And so she called one of her friends that she had met in the battered woman's shelter.
Yeah.
And this lady came to her rescue because they had got real close. So another altercation happened, I think, with this lady and Mr. Brooks.
Yeah.
But anyway, after these altercations, I think they called the police on him. I'm not for sure if they called the police on him then. I think they did. I think the prosecutor said they called the police on him, but he took off.
Yeah.
And in the midst of him taking off in his SUV, it was a parade going on that day. And this parade, he basically went through the barriers of the parade. They said he was doing like 30, between 30 and 35 miles per hour. Now that is very fast when you're talking about a parade with people walking in the parade, and the floats barely going like what, 2 miles per hour.
Yeah, real slow. Yeah.
And we're talking about the whole town was out there at this parade. So this idiot, and before I say this part, I just want to give a little discretion to people that might get triggered. First of all, to the families of the victims and the victims themselves. This show is not to in any way to think that we are in favor of Mr. Brooks and what he did and on that day, or in any way feeling that um he shouldn't be convicted by mowing these people down like he did. I don't think that that was ever a question that he did this. So we want to just pay respects to the victims' families and let them know that this show is not about trying to get him out of jail. It's just about analyzing how his trial took place and the things that they allowed to take place in the trial. Um, and so, but this part, so he ran his SUV through the parade and he hit several people. He hit a lot of people. He killed 6 people, one being a child. Um, After he ran his,
Well, no, he actually killed 7 people. Actually died. You remember one person died later on. Initially, he was charged with 7 counts of murder, and the 7th person actually died, and they charged him with that additional count of murder.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Let me make sure. I got my notes here. Let me just make sure. Yeah. So it's 7 that actually
It
died.
was
Yeah.
7 that actually died, and
Yeah.
one of them was a little 8-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
was
I know the WWE put on, did a documentary with, about him, and, just gave a lot of support to the community with Wichita, Wisconsin.
Yeah, because I want you guys to imagine this. I don't know if you've ever been in a parade or seen a parade, but my bonus child was just in the parade. I think it was Chris, one of these last parades, and
Yeah.
these kids and people is just walking in the parade. And so when you look at this, he even hit people that was watching the parade. Not only people in the parade, he also hit people that was watching the parade. And so
Yeah.
when you think about this, like, what is really going through his mind when he's when he's driving through this parade doing 30 to 35 miles per hour?
Yeah.
So he hits these people, he kills some people. Unfortunately, our hearts definitely go out to them and their families. Salute, we got Messy Marv in the chat. Salute, he coming in showing some love. So our hearts definitely go out to the victims and the families. So what happens is he runs, he ditches the SUV. He started going knocking on people's doors and all kind of stuff. And one man let him in, actually.
Yeah. Let him in.
Fed
Let
him,
him use his phone. Fed him.
gave him a coat
Uh,
to wear
Gave
because
him
it
a
was
coat.
cold.
Yeah. Well, he didn't. He believed the story. I think he told the guy that he was homeless or something. He was trying to. He just needed to use a phone to get an Uber somewhere. and the man was just generous. You know, he was a
Yeah.
generous person in the community. But you know, and that kind of speak to the type of community that they came from. That Wichita, Wisconsin, is because the vast majority of the people in the town there, you know, they're older citizens. You know, and the people who the six victims, they were like 60 and up. You
Yeah.
know, the child was the youngest person to get to die. You
Yeah.
know, and then there was 61 other people who were injured, and
Hit
you know
Greg.
the average age was like maybe 50. So
Yeah.
it's an older community. It seemed like one of those communities that the kids, the youngsters, they graduate school and go off into the military or go off to college or whatever. But it's an older kind of community, and they the man, he invited him in his house, his home, you
Yeah.
know,
And showed them
to help him,
hospitality.
yeah. So it kind of shows you what kind of community it was.
Yeah.
And Darrell, he's been convicted. So we don't have to say alleged or anything, but from all the information, he zigzagged, through the crowd, targeting people.
They
He
said
was,
the camera shows his SUV doing this, and there's no speed bumps on the street. So
yeah,
he was just basically just going. And they said the more people he hit, the more it's like I don't know if it's I don't know what happened with his mind, but they said he picked up speed as he hit people. He picked up more speed. And he got to the dancing grannies. That's where the senior citizens was, and that's where the mass majority of the people that got killed at was those older people. He hit those older people. But when the guy invited him in, shortly after that, the police came to the guy house, and they arrested him because they was already on him. Um, so now I want to get to the part of this case because there was no question that he did this. There's no question.
yeah,
Trial to me was a joke, an absolute joke. I've
yeah.
never seen anything like that before in my life. So what they did, you guys, is that he decided to take the road where he wanted to present himself as, what is it called, a non-citizen or a solemn.
Well, it's called, always, I'm not good with that word, but it's called like the
Sovereign,
sovereignty
sovereign
citizen,
citizen.
that sovereignty citizen or sovereign.
Sovereign citizen.
Sovereign.
Yep.
I got big lips, so I got a sovereign. We gotta like really accentuate our words when you have big lips. So sovereign citizenship is what
Well,
he
it's
claimed.
good you using them lips for something then, Adrian.
But yeah, so but that's what he used. And I remember reading about this maybe about 15, 20 years ago, and I was still incarcerated. And yeah, I like the idea of sovereign citizen, based on under their belief system, you're not under the civil jurisdiction of the United States. Civil that covers criminal as well as civil law. So
Right.
yeah, I was interested in it. I researched it, everything, right? And but then I found out it's not viable. It's
Yeah.
not valuable in the United States. It's real big out here. It's big in Canada and other places, but mainly the United States and Canada. And I've never heard anyone winning a legal case using the sovereign citizenship like claim or whatever.
Now I haven't either, and I did a little research on it. I looked up some attorneys that talked about it.
Yeah.
They've never heard anyone that have won off of it, but someone told me that they know someone that have used that, but they were already deemed before their case took place. I guess they were already deemed a non-citizen or a sovereign citizen or however,
Yeah.
before the case took place. But that'll be something that I'll look at. I asked Marv, I want that information because I want to look into that because attorneys have even said they've never seen or heard anyone winning a case or getting cases dismissed
Yeah.
because they're a sovereign citizen. But I thought it was very interesting. So I guess his attorneys that he had, Mr. Brooks, of course, probably didn't want to go with that defense.
Yeah.
And so he fired them. He fired them and he went pro per. That's my question in this whole thing. Now, we set the stage. This was a small town, retired town, very close knit town, right?
Yeah.
So, usually in those close knit towns, the police officers know the neighbors, everybody kind of know each other. Everybody's kind of familiar with each other. But my question to his case was, how on God's green earth did they allow this man to go pro per? And he had, and I know it's our constitutional right to go pro per, right? If the
Yeah.
court deems you credible or able to go pro per, but how did they deem him able to go pro per just by having a high school diploma and the way he was acting?
Yeah. Well, from the information I read, I didn't see that he had a high school diploma. They actually said he dropped out of school. He caught a case, a criminal charge, and he was dealing with that. He dropped out of school. So because I thought he had a high school diploma as well, but they're saying that there is no high school diploma. So yeah, that would make it even more so. Like, why would you allow this person to represent themselves, and they clearly don't have the legal background or knowledge to properly represent themselves. But as you said, that's you have a right to represent yourself. In the country, I think it's Ringwright versus Gideon, right? And I'm just like pulling this from all my legal work, but you have the right to you have a right to counsel, and in that you have the right to the effective assistance of counsel, right?
Right.
They just can't give you any lawyer, but you also have the right to represent yourself, which is pro se or pro per, a Latin term or what have you, right? So once he filed that motion and asked the judge, look, I want to represent myself, the judge would then so ask him a bunch of questions and kind of review everything, like, what is your legal background? What do you know about the proceedings? How can you demonstrate to this court that you're competent enough to proceed on your own? And for a lot of courts, what they'll do, they will grant the pro se request, but they will have
A sitting attorney.
counsel, to assist him and help him out.
Right.
Because like some of the video that I've seen of him of the trial, he was just in this antagonistic, like back and forth with the judge. You arguing with the judge on jury nullification and these minute issues. And like they say, that pseudo law, where because and that come from that sovereign citizenship stuff, right? Because that they've pulled obscure language out of American law, out of the legal system, and they've applied it to this sovereign citizen movement. So it's actually American law that they've cherry picked certain parts out of and say, because they said this, well, this don't apply to us. But that's still American law. And you using some pseudo legal argument in a court of law, they're not going to recognize that. And the judge began just start penalizing him, because that's what happened. If you file a motion, if you don't type the motion up correctly in the right font on the right paper, you can get it's a rule of the court saying that you have to file so many copies or do this and do that, and if you don't follow those rules, they'll penalize you.
Right.
So they penalized him a couple of times with the jury selection. They penalized him, and she was going to penalize him with his closing argument, and wasn't not going to give him any closing argument. And what people don't know, that's illegal. That's legal. So now he get convicted and try to appeal it. The appellate court's like, no, you violated this rule of the court, and you were penalized. You don't get a closing argument. You can't make an argument now on appeal that she denied you a closing argument or a right to present your defense. So it's so many things you need to know, and I don't know all the stuff. I'm just knowing the little bit that I'm telling you the little bit that I do know. So just imagine, someone who doesn't have, what it take 3 years, 4 years. You got to go through the bar, past that bar.
4 years. And but see, that was my whole thing with this, like how, and even in court, the things that he was doing, how did she not get a judge? Now, what I did find out is in Wisconsin, let's give a shout out to Lil T's. Merlin's in the house. What's up? But what I did find out is Wisconsin's law is they don't have to give you a sitting attorney. So that's why he didn't have one. They didn't have to give him one.
They could have. They wasn't required, but she could have appointed. I think she should have appointed him a sitting attorney, though. It was kind of clear from what I saw that he did not know some of the legal terminologies that he was using. It was like he read a little something, he just used it in court, but he didn't do enough research to really, get a precedence, because that's what they're looking for. You have to show some type of precedence, where this has happened in a previous case, whether it be a federal case, a state case, a Supreme Court case, or circuit case, or whatever it may be, that this is standard law, and there's a precedence for this motion that I'm filing, or this request that I'm making, and he wasn't doing any of that. He'll throw some legal terminology out there, and the judge like, okay, yeah, that don't apply, and he'll keep going with it, and he might have something else to kind of like back it up, All
right, so let's show a little clip of one of his little rants where he was trying to call the state of Wisconsin as a witness.
Okay.
That court case, Adrian, was something else. Like that trial, man, listen, I don't know what the judge was going through. Hold on, let me see here. Let's watch this.
Where we at?
Hold on. Let me see how it's looking. Okay.
Mr. Brooks, I'm reviewing this for completeness, and you have simply put on here state of Wisconsin plaintiff. That's an entity. You have to name a person, sir. The date. The date we would fill in. So I'll have it shown to the state, and they can let me know their position on that.
Any legal basis why that would not be accepted, Your Honor?
You have to have a person named, sir, so that they can come and testify. You only have an entity named.
Is it not true that under the Sixth Amendment I have the right to face my accuser?
Mr. Brooks, let me hear from the state.
Yes, Your Honor, I agree with the court's assessment. The subpoena does not state a person. The subpoena form specifically indicates that the person requesting the subpoena is to indicate the witness's name and address. Mr. Brooks has simply written the word state of Wisconsin plaintiff for the witness name. The state of Wisconsin is an entity. It's not a person. The state of Wisconsin cannot testify at these proceedings, so the subpoena should be rejected, Your Honor.
That, Your Honor, on the grounds that every
Hey, tech leads.
Mm-hmm.
So, so that was just like one baby stick of his. So he wanted to subpoena the state of Wisconsin's to the stand. What
Yeah.
do you think that's about? Like, what? He said he has the right to face his accused. And it's the state of Wisconsin's that is accusing him of this crime.
Yeah. So the state is, basically the people. So, I mean, in theory, I think they could have just grabbed somebody off the streets that was not, that was a citizen. That was a citizen and put that person on the stand. In theory, right? Because, the it's the people versus Darrell Brooks Jr.
Right.
So it's the people that live in Wisconsin, the people of the state of Wisconsin.
Right.
So they could have, grabbed anyone, right? But in theory, I'm thinking, right? But that's part of that sovereign, citizen movement that they have going on. They telling them, like, look, man, tell them you want to call the state of Wisconsin and see who they put on the stand, and that's going to give you rights to an appeal or something or whatever it may be. And one thing about it, a lot of black people, a lot of dudes in jail that I knew, they were attaching themselves to that. They were reading the books. We had the books in there. I read the books. I thought it was, phenomenal because I had life in prison, and I was like looking at every possible avenue at my disposal of getting out. So yeah, it was interesting to me. Yeah. But as I continue to research it and then see how the courts work, they're looking for some type of legal precedence when you present, your case in court. They're not recognizing, sovereign citizenship. They're not recognizing that. So I think it was some pseudo law that he, found, and he thought he could use it to his advantage, and it didn't work.
It didn't, and that's another reason why I wanted to do the show about the trial, is because there's a lot of people that I believe is really believing in this.
Yeah.
And they really don't know what the heck they doing. And it kind of goes a lot deeper than just for the law. It goes into this. They talk about this birth certificate thing, the trust, and and all this. It goes deeper, but it got people's mind entangled into this stuff, and they don't know what the heck that they're doing. And this man, he done went pro per thinking that he knew what the heck he was doing, and then got 6 life sentences.
Yeah.
When he probably could have only got one, if he would have had proper defense. You just never know how it could have worked out or went, but he clearly did not have proper defense. Now, my question for you about that is, how do you think his appeal is going to look by him going pro per with this?
Well, I don't know Wisconsin, appeal system, but most of them, they mirror, you say California or, each other, right? So, you have, in California, you have, I believe, like 15 days, 2 weeks after your conviction to file for an appeal, and, so if you don't file in California, if you don't file for an appeal after your conviction, then, it becomes a mute issue like 5-10 years down the line or something, unless you find some new evidence. But so, more likely he's filed for an appeal within whatever specified time. Now it's going to go to the civil court or district courts, So he go through the district courts, which is federal. Usually, he had to go to the court. He said if he is an issue, he has to file it with the court he was convicted in first. Then say if he don't get no relief right there, then he can go to the courts of appeal,
Right.
And which is state, and then he can go to the district court, which is federal, and then you can actually take it all the way up to United States Supreme Court.
Now, here's my question before you lose that thought. Do you think he will be able to file an appeal based on effective counsel?
Yeah. So that's that. Yeah, you're right, because now he can say, "Look, I was clearly out of my league, and this judge, she should have saw it, and she should not have allowed me to represent myself." So yeah, he can actually file and say I was ineffective, and that the judge saw that and should not have allowed me to go pro se.
She shouldn't have allowed it to go that far. Even if it seemed like she could have cut it off once she seen that it was not gonna be, once she seen it wasn't gonna be right, she should have cut the whole thing off and made him have an attorney. Uncle Joe, Dice, before I say something about Uncle Joe, Dice is in the chat. Let's give it up for Dice. Dice is the one, Adrian, that gave me this content. We're going to be doing a lot of work with him. He's helping me do a lot of things. That's my big bro, little bro. That's my bro. He helping me. He helping me. He helping me. We're going to get monetized with his help. And so I'm so happy to be on his team. He's on the team I was telling you that I joined, the Damu and Keyway Conversations team.
Yeah, you got to send me that link and stuff, because I'm not too good with finding that. Just send me the link, and it'll just be easier. I was meaning to tell you, do that for me.
Yep, I am.
You brought up a good point, about appeal. I didn't even but you're right. So this dude, even though he represented himself in blue, he was a dump truck. That's what we called you dump. You dumped me, right?
Yeah.
And we call public defenders dump trucks and stuff, because they don't. A lot of them don't have the time, the resources. The case loads are too big. Not saying that they're not good attorneys, but they just overworked, they're overwhelmed. But anyway, he dropped the ball. So that was a good question, because now on appeal, he can say look, this judge should have saw that I was incompetent.
That's my concern, because these families, Adrian, have been through enough.
Yeah.
They've been through enough. And it really aggravates me when you get to court and these judges and prosecutors and attorneys just forget about the families and go off of their own feelings and emotions and different things. But they don't think that. I don't think she realized that this dude is ineffective, and it's his right. It's his constitutional right to have effective counsel. So when I started researching it and I saw him in trial, I'm like, he's gonna probably file effective counsel. He took
well, he more likely he can't file it's California that I know. Wisconsin, that's a whole different state. But so in California, say if you hire an attorney, your private attorney, and that attorney doesn't represent you correctly or whatever, right? Now the court can come back and say, look, we were willing to provide you with effective counsel. You chose your own counsel. So now you can't file ineffective counsel, assistance to counsel claim, so in that same light, so he represented himself. So no, he can't file and say, I was ineffective. No, you chose to represent yourself. But what he can do, I believe, and I'm not quite sure on this, I'm not 100%, but what he can do is file against the judge. Because when you file an appeal, you're looking for something that the judge did wrong,
right,
the prosecution did wrong, or your attorney did wrong,
right.
And, say the evidence, the police report, none of that really kind of it matters, but it don't, because now it falls on the prosecution to put a crooked officer on the stand or use crooked information that the say someone provided. It's up to the judge to allow certain information into the trial. It's up to your attorney to file motions to get certain things dismissed. So
Right.
when you file appeal, it's going to be against the judge, the prosecution, or your attorney, something that they did wrong in the proceedings.
Mhm.
So he would file against the judge and say the judge clearly, I mean, I've seen at least, so I watched like 4 videos with him going back and forth with his judge, and she remained calm,
She did.
and this and that, and seemed like she was like toying with him a little bit. And at that point, I believe she should have, she knew this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Let
Yeah.
me get in another attorney to sit at the table with him to advise him so that he doesn't file an appeal and that the families don't have to revisit this 5, 10, 15 years down the line because he has life,
Yeah.
and he's 42 years old. So an appeal can happen 10, 20, 30 years from now. And now you bring it all this, right back to the forefront of the families, that
It
the
just
law.
it just seemed like a lot of things that he missed that he could have objected to, he didn't. A lot of things, it was some things that he could have objected to that he didn't, and I don't know. But let's see. Dice said, um, Corset, he said that's a whole different state. You can file, but he did have effective counsel initially. He chose to let them go and represent himself, and the judge gave him fair warning not to do so.
Yeah.
I said he can still file the appeal, though. Adrian is speaking facts. Yeah, that is. It just seemed like to me that the judge, and I don't know, it might not. I'm not an attorney, so I don't know. But to me, looking at it, it just seemed like the judge, she, she let it, what I want to
She
say,
let it go too far.
jeopardized the case. She jeopardized the trial, with letting him go too far with
well,
a lot.
I would say that the trial by allowing him to represent himself, his conviction was all but assured because he didn't know what he was doing. But what she did, she just gave him an issue for an appeal to sort of finality of the entire proceedings. That's what she kept that door open because the finality of the proceeding isn't done until the appeal process is
It's
completed.
complete. Now, um, I lost my train of thought, but I think she, oh, mental health. She announced that he had 4 mental evaluations because the prosecution themselves, and Dice, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I believe the prosecution themselves even questioned the judge on allowing him to go pro per. I don't even think the prosecution wanted him to go pro per
No, probably
because
not.
I believe that they knew that was going to jeopardize the case in the long term. Do you think?
Yeah, the appeal, right? Not the case because he, like I said, his conviction was assured, But yeah, so the prosecution, like, look, man, you keeping this door open for appeal that could last for years, if not decades, because he got the life without the possibility of parole. So, like I say, he's 42. He can live to 80, 90 years old in prison, right? So that left that door open, by and like you said, the mental health issues, they were there from just hearing about it on the news. They were saying that he had some issues. They talked to his mother, I remember, because his mother and his grandmother wrote a letter to the court telling them, like, look, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
He's had other mental health issues.
But on
So
the fact of the crime itself, Adrian, on how the crime took place,
yeah,
what he did, that right there, I'm not, took psychology, a course in my master's, but not a psychologist, but that right there alone should register to anybody that he's not mentally capable of handling this kind of case.
Yeah.
Like if it was just like a robbery or something like that, then you say, okay, well, you want to fight it out, burglary. But this kind of case where doing something like that, you would think your mind have to flip to just keep hitting people and hit. The average rational mind is not in good standing order, and you just running over people like that. Something ain't right. Something ain't right there. They gave him 4 mental evaluations. All 4. Now, what I want people to think about when you say 4 mental evaluations in this town, all of these people probably know each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All these people probably know each other. The doctors, all of these people know each other. And I'm pretty sure they all wanted him hung. They wanted him hung for what he did.
Yeah.
And for him to have to receive 4 mental evaluations, and the judge said each one of them rendered him capable of proceeding to be his own attorney. They said that they said that he acted just how he was acting in court, with his little tantrums, with his rants, and with all of that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think, Adrian, since he had to have 4 evaluations, that she should have still took something into consideration in regards to how the case went, how the crime took place too?
Yeah. Of course. You know, I know initially they filed a couple of motions. He tried to move it to another county because of it was like Wickasaw Strong. They had that movement going on, and so he did seek another venue, not jurisdiction. Yeah, another venue, because it's still same jurisdiction. Right. But so they denied that motion, and there was another motion that he filed, and they granted it. Oh, they granted. So he had another judge, so they got that judge removed and assigned the judge, the female judge. I think her name was Darrell or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah. But yeah, the judge, like I say, to me, I just don't believe she should have allowed him to represent himself, or if he insisted upon it, she should have assigned counsel. If he did not, accept that, then she should have just denied him representing himself, period, because of not having the high school diploma, because from what I read, he didn't have the high school diploma.
Did he have a high school diploma? But before I read what Dice said, Dice got some more information on it. I want to say this, because Uncle Joe, in his last case that he did that time for, he wanted to represent himself. They actually denied him. They actually denied him. He wanted to represent himself. So that's why it kind of shocked me when I started seeing this trial. I was like, how did this judge allow him? But Dice, let's see what Dice said. He said, I definitely think it should have been stopped in the beginning from him representing himself, especially since he had been on suicide watch and all type of stuff. That's another thing that came up that I had found out. He had already previously said that he was going to kill himself. Yeah. That said, I don't like this dude for what he did. It was wrong. I also have my own beef with the judge, and I do not back him up. But I do think his case, due to the severity, should have been in a different venue. A judge actually has the power to rule that a defendant is competent. This man trial, but was not competent to represent themselves. He definitely was not. And I think once I looked at it and got into it, Dice, I just really looked at it like this. He got major grounds for an appeal. I seen
And
all
that's
through
messed
that
up.
case. Like
And
it's
that's unfortunate for the family. Yeah, but and then the trial, it was such a fast turnaround as far as from the time that he committed the crime until the trial. And see, in California, I've seen dudes in the county jail for 4 or 5 years
years,
fighting the case. When I
especially
think
that
about,
kind of case.
yeah,
That
and
kind of case. This dude, this dude, like I'm pretty sure he didn't have resources to anything that he know. Like he was out of state, so there is no telling what inmates he was in contact with, or even if he was in contact with any inmates, because he killed the kid. So they
yeah,
probably had him, away from everybody,
isolated, yeah.
and to have
Very
no,
little, use of the law library. Like I say, the case happened in November, so and he was convicted in October of the following year. So the trial had to start like maybe 6 months later. And like I say, that versus say California, I think about what Fat Rat and Big Evil. Them dudes is in the county jail for like 8 years, fighting a case. Just on that alone, but 8 years, you have so much time to study, to research, to understand the charges against you, the laws that that pertain to them charges, and
right,
how to maybe overcome those things. But in 6 months, no, you're not going to be able to mentally grasp everything that goes into representing yourself in at a trial, and without any prior legal experience. And so, yeah, she should not have allowed him to represent himself, and that's going to fall back on her. But the families are going to feel it more. The
yeah,
surviving victims, they're going to feel it more.
yeah,
She, yeah, I really, I'm with Dice. I don't agree with nothing old boy did, none of that stuff. My beef right now, and I just, so you just sent me this case last week. So I've just been researching it for the last week or so. And my biggest beef is with the judge.
yeah,
That's where my beef is at, because the judge, whether she wanted to get on TV or whatever, she allowed those proceedings to continue, knowing that this guy was not competent enough to represent himself, and it opened that door for an appeal that could last for years and bring the families and the victims right back into this, this madness,
yeah, yeah. So I just want to say we definitely send love prayers to all of the family members, victims, everybody that was affected by this, because we have to look at it too. And he said this, his family was even affected by this. Can you imagine being a child of a father that did this? Like this is something that his kids have to wear with them for the rest of their life. His parents until they die. And so
Damn.
a lot of people was affected by this. Um, I think he I think he should have got the time that he got. I don't think that he's mentally something's mentally wrong with him. I listened to how he talked. He was very sarcastic. He kind of threatened the judge at one time, doing this, pumping his fists, and he was just very nasty. He was just very nasty all the way around. No compassion. I think in his opening, no, in his one of those in the opening statement is where I seen the most compassion for the victims and their families, because he broke down crying. But overall, I just think when you look at this trial, the judge made a huge mistake, my opinion, for the victims and the victims' family, because I think that they're going to probably revisit this if he get in contact with an attorney that's going to go over an appellate attorney is going to go over all of the things that he can get back in court on. And so I think we'll see what's to come. Hopefully he do stay his butt in jail, because just to have that mindset to run people down like that, something that's something ain't right. Something ain't right. Something ain't right. And so hopefully he can get rehabilitated while he in there. He got 6 life sentences to do so. Other than that, Adrian, my co-host, you know I love you, boy. What you got coming up, Adrian? You got something good? What you got going on?
Well, well, I'm still, I'm working. I'm working for like 3 nonprofits right now. Just I'm doing part-time work. So next month is, I got a transition. So, I'm doing an internship with the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center here in San Francisco. So that ends next month. So, and I got in just to really learn data management. So they've been teaching me all this. I remember I took a 13-month vocational course in prison for Microsoft, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, all that. And it took 13 months for me to get certified, but I've learned more in the last 2 months doing this internship than I learned in 13 months, right? So, once I complete that, then I want to focus on some of my own projects. Of course, writing, getting, my main strip, completed, getting it edited, getting it, possibly published, right? Continue my work in the juvenile halls. That's where my heart is,
Right.
just based on my story, not having say that someone to model myself off of. I'm not going to just say a role model, but someone to like give me that working knowledge so I can get from here to there. Because that's what I'm seeing with a lot of the kids. They just don't have a working knowledge of how do I get my birth certificate? How do I get my identification, my driver's license? And these are some rudimentary things that are required. And so now you see kids, the young folks, 24, 28, never had a driver's license, never had their ID, then got so many marks against it. So now they try to go down there and get it.
They can't get
it. You got to pay about $5,000 just to take the test.
Yeah.
So, I want to catch them. And that was big for me because I got out of prison. For one, I've been celebrating my birthday for 35 years on the wrong day.
I remember.
Yeah, because I didn't know. I never had my birth certificate. My mother passed when I was a minor and never knew my father. Then, getting out of prison after 27 years, I did not know my social security number.
Right.
So I had to start. But now I had a working knowledge of how to get these things, because I researched them, and I was very motivated. Right. So for me, just getting the young people that I'm working with to get the basic rudimentary things that's going to get them started, get them a job. You can't, I remember I was 16, this before I ever sold, I was a gang member, I was a drug dealer, all that, right? So this before I ever sold a piece of dope, and I sold rock, crack, cocaine, right? But I went down to that, you remember the 4 H's they had in LA? The 4 H's, I forget what the homie Spade worked for him when he was a kid. But it was like, it was like the 3 H's or the 4 H's or something. No, it was a conservation corps.
Okay.
So, but they're similar though. But it's the conservation corps. But I remember at 16 going down to 7th and Broadway and trying to apply myself. And when the guy, he was there, he was willing to help me, right? And I remember seeing kids, young folks my same age, and somebody had put me up on it. So the day before I ever sold a nickel of dope, a dime of dope, I tried to get a job. And the guy told me, well, do you have any identification? I said, no. He said, do you have your birth certificate? I said, no. And he said, man, I can't help you. You got to have some kind of identification. So that's one of the first barriers that a lot of these young folks out here is facing, not having identification so that they can get into, say, a Job Corps or a job training program, or even into school. You can't go to school without identification.
You sure
so
can.
That's been my main push. Of course, emotional literacy.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in emotional literacy over your IQ.
Okay.
You have some of the smartest people in the world that emotionally they're a mess, right?
All,
Yeah. So emotional literacy and anger management, just understanding, anger that is it's a real emotion. It's a natural emotion, but
right.
it's what you do with it. How do you deal with that situation that's making you angry? Do you lash out or do you respond, with a clear mind? So
Right.
that's what I have on tap. Like me and the homie Mac. We're still talking about doing our channel.
Yeah, I
Uh,
can't wait.
yeah, and it was just what I've been dealing with lately. It was that so the last 3 weeks I've been dealing with that, going back and forth to L.A. to Victorville. A lot of my family right now today. My older sister don't have a driver's license. I mean, her son, my nephew, doesn't have one because he don't know how that look.
Yeah.
So I just ordered his birth certificate. It costs $59, so I just
Yeah.
got his birth certificate. So he can get it. It's just so. But I've been dealing with that, so I had to put some things on a back burner. But in the coming weeks, we will get more attractions towards starting our channel.
All right, all right. Well, we're looking forward to it and we're going to get it going. I want to give a shout out to all of our chat liners. Dice, thank you for coming through. Dice said he broke down crying, but at the same time, he never voiced any compassion or remorse for what he did. He never did. He just kept saying it wasn't intentional. It wasn't intentional. But at some point, when you hit the first person, when you passing these people driving, it's obviously it's intentional for you
Yeah,
to keep going and keep going. I just think the worst part too is that he never told any, like, we don't know. His only thing is it wasn't intentional. We want to believe it wasn't intentional, but he hit all them people. But if it wasn't, if that wasn't the issue, then what would cause anybody, let's known a black man, to run down a parade like that? I just, for the life of me. But then when I researched him a little more, he was already beating on his women. He already had suicidal issues. His mother them said he was bipolar and already rendered something. I don't think that they should have let him off with being mental, but I don't think that they should have allowed him to do his own trial. I don't think he should have got off with mental because he knew what the hell he was doing.
yeah.
But he should not have been allowed to do his own trial. But with that being said, I want to thank my chat liners. Thank you, Dice. We're gonna do some more work. I'm gonna hook up with you because I'm gonna chop this video up and we're gonna put it into little segments and I'm gonna do some more shorts on it because there's a lot of information to unpack with it that we didn't get a chance to unpack. So I'm gonna do a little shorts on it and we're gonna get it cracking. I did a short on it, Adrian, and I think we're at over 1,000 views, all because of Dice.
That's what's
First
up.
time I got 1K up views for a video on YouTube. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Moving on up, Adrian.
Marketing and distribution,
Yeah, we're moving on up.
Mhm.
And so by the time the goal is by the time we get with Mac and get that podcast going, and then I get with the innocent people that's in jail that I want to work on this other podcast about the Real Freedom podcast.
Yeah.
Um we'll already have a following to follow into that because our following for true crime is actually going to be a good following for you guys show about the prison etiquette thingy and the the real freedom podcast because it's also talking about innocent people that are in prison right now and giving them a voice to let their stories be heard to the world. So we on the road. We on the road. The Tree Tips Media Incorporation is in effect, baby. We on the road, Adrian.
Indeed.
All
I'm
right,
digging
so
it.
I'm gonna send you some more content probably by tomorrow. What we're gonna talk about next Wednesday. You're gonna be ready, right? You gonna be on time again, Adrian? You gonna be on time again, Adrian? I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Look at you blushing. I'm
Yeah, you put me on blast. Like, you're not gonna be on time. Boy, I might, I might not be on time, but I'm on schedule. You know what I mean?
you
Believe
on
that.
schedule. That's right. All right, Adrian. Well, until next time, I'll be hitting you up. Take
All
care
good.
of yourself out there.
Likewise.
All right, Facebook, YouTubers, and Twitter fingers, X, Dice, Chat,
Peace.
see y'all. Till next time, we are
Peace.
out. Who do you?